I'm on a major project right now, and what I'm doing is, as you know, I've already published Bible for Tribulation Saints, which is basically a transcript of our conversations with Jesus, where he spoke to me through Skype and through Brent writing me emails, where Brent would tell me what Jesus said, and all the context around what he said to us. Because you can't really understand why he said what he said, or what, unless you understand the context, like what happened right before he showed up and so forth. So, but for that reason, Bible for Tribulation Saints is a huge book because, I never expected this. When I was a young Christian, I was told that Revelation, that the canon is closed, Revelation is complete, and Jesus would not be making any more appearances until his second coming. So when he did show up, I was from a very strict Baptist background, and I didn't even believe in wearing pants when I was in my 20s. I was, as Jesus said, I was really hardcore. He actually explained to me that, Gail, he let me marry somebody who was rigid and a gay, a secret gay, which means my love life with him was very cold. And he allowed me to be married to that man to get rid of the rigidity in my life. And it worked. It really worked. So that when he brought my soulmate into my life, who was Brent Spiner, I was ready for him. I had been in a cold marriage to a guy who was a secret gay, who made love to me just for appearances and didn't love me. I figured out after about 2 years of marriage that my husband didn't love me, that he was only interested in appearances, and that he only married me for appearances. I figured that out, though I never knew he was a secret gay until after I got out of the marriage. I followed God's leading to get out of the marriage because Jesus actually, I prayed to Jesus a lot, and he said, Gail, if you do not get out of this marriage, you are going to be dead in a couple years. Your husband is going to be used to get rid of you. Well, I figured out that he was a Jesuit, or that he supported the Jesuits, because I could tell when Brent Spiner came in my life, and I was trying to protect Brent's communication with me because he had a wiretap on my phone, that my husband seemed well, I knew he was a Jesuit because when I first married him, it was he who let me know that the Jesuit order was Satan's bride, and that they were behind the Nazi Holocaust, and that their goal is worldwide conquest for Satan. Jack Chick, I read his stuff, and he was the one and it was my husband, when we were engaged, who gave me Jack Chick's tape Smoke Screens, and I listened to that, and I realized, I thought, wow, I cried when I heard that. I thought, this is terrible that there's an organization on earth that's willing to even have a Holocaust in order to set up their religious kingdom. And I thought, there's no way Jesus would be behind us. So that I believed Jack Chick when he said that was Satan's church. Now, Jack was a little off on the King James Bible issue, but he was right on target about that. And what was so funny is that was my husband who gave me that, that information. And then when the Lord told me in a still small voice in December 1999, he said, your enemy is the Roman Catholic Church, I went back and re-listened to all of Jack Chick's tapes. I reread his book, Smoke Screens, and I thought, oh my God, I figured out from that Loree McBride was a Jesuit. And I told Brent Spiner that, and I knew then and then I realized that, and I could tell that my husband was on Loree McBride's side, because when she tried to burn down my mobile home in 1998, he took her side. He treated me like I was crazy. He tried to blame it on my son, who was with me helping me put out the fires. It wasn't him. Though we didn't realize it at the time, the Jesuits were using a lookalike of my son outside of my home to set the fires. I didn't realize the extent of, I knew the Jesuits were behind the fires. I figured that out, and Loree McBride was part of it, but I didn't know the extent of their technology back then, that they had cloning technology, that they had lookalike technology. I didn't realize they had brain reading, mind reading technology. I figured this all out around 2002, 2003, 2004. And then when Vladimir got on to the brain-to-brain servers and he was able to talk to me with thoughts to my mind, I started learning more, and then I wrote conspiracy law, saying this is horrible. We need to write law to make this outlawed. So to make a long story short, what happened was I reinstated Brent Spiner into my life because after 9/11, which the Jesuits were behind to block Brent from marrying me, I realized I thought I needed like a president in my life. So I fell in love with Vladimir Putin, thinking I'd never be able to get to Brent because these Jesuits were just too powerful. And what really happened was eventually we ended up getting a band of men. Brent fell in love with me first, then he invited Franco Nero into my life. But when I found out that Loree McBride was a Jesuit agent, I reinstated Brent and told him I'd marry him, and he tried to marry me, but when he tried to get on a plane to come out and get me, the 9/11 attacks happened. And I just thought, oh my God, what will these Jesuits do next? So I figured I need a president in my life, so Vladimir Putin came in my life. And I tried to marry Vladimir, thinking maybe I can't have a happy, I was divorced then, because the Lord told me to get out of that marriage or I'd be dead. I figured out my ex-husband was a Jesuit. And what was funny is when it was divorce time, he took the side of the Catholic Church and he totally disowned Jack Chick. He said, that's crazy saying that the Catholic Church has a conspiracy against you, Gail. And he used that in the divorce case to say that I was crazy because I believe that. I mean, the lawyer just came right out and asked me, do you believe that the Catholic Church is against you, Gail? He asked me that in the courtroom. And I said, I'm not going to be intimidated. Even if I lose custody of my kid, I said, yes, I believe that. And that's how they got me written off as crazy. My husband had his lawyer do that. So my husband was a Jesuit. It's funny how he switched from, it was he who educated me about the Catholic Church, but when it came time for divorce, he took the opposite stance. He totally turned the tables on me. The guy is such a hypocrite. Anyway, so long story short, it was Brent who got on. Brent fell in love with me first, then Franco Nero. When I reinstated Brent, when I realized that Loree was a Vatican agent and I forgave him for having her publicly, then Vladimir went to Vanessa Redgrave. And Franco and I still have a lot of respect for each other, and I'm happy for him with Vanessa Redgrave. And he ended up marrying her. And then Vladimir Putin came in my life next, and he fell in love with me, and I stayed with him. He was my #1 lover from 2001 to about 2006. And when I realized that he hadn't come to get me by 2006, I figured I should just go ahead and give Brent a chance, because I figured Brent was a little bit braver than Vladimir, because at least he talked to me on the phone in 1991, 92. So I reinstated Brent in 2006. But it was mostly brain-to-brain communication, and I didn't have the internet. I got the internet in 2011, and I found out about Loree McBride claiming that she had a baby with Brent. And I thought, oh my God. I said, however she got that baby, I know it wasn't by natural sex. I knew it had to be artificial insemination, and I was right about that. But Brent couldn't take it when I started making videos. Because right after I got the internet, I started making videos. And I went and bought this Logitech webcam, which I still have, by the way. And I even use it to make my audiobooks. I use the microphone in it, which is pretty good for audiobooks. And so Brent started contacting me via a YouTube. He set up a YouTube channel, a private one, which the Brent Spiner clone took down September 15, 2011. So we ended up around 2005, Matthew McConaughey came into my life, because Silver Skies was made into a movie that Steven Spielberg. So long story short is that all these men started falling in love with me. It started with Brent, and then we got Vladimir Putin, then we got Matthew McConaughey, and then Hugh Jackman saved Brent Spiner's life when he was at the White House, and he pulled out his concealed weapon and shot the Jesuit guy who was going to try to shoot Brent. And so made brain-to-brain love to Hugh to reward him for his courage, and he came onto the marriage list. And then Gerard Butler, I watched Phantom of the Opera, and he came onto the marriage list because he was a psychiatrist and we needed his services because Matthew was getting suicidally depressed because of Camilla Alves in his life. And then just more and more men, because of Brent's Hollywood friends, more and more men found out about me. And now we got I don't know how many people on the marriage list. I told Brent, this is stupid. You don't need to make a marriage list and have all these guys. I just want Brent and Vladimir, And I didn't even want Matthew McConaughey. I was kind of leery about him because he was younger than me. But anyways, long story short. So here we are, February 14th, 2012, in a church service with me, Matthew McConaughey, Gerard Butler, Hugh Jackman, Vladimir Putin, Brent. We're all together. I led Brent to Jesus after a UFO abducted him seriously. But I knew from my Bible studies with Dr. Peter Ruckman that UFOs are the fallen angels, so I prayed to Jesus, and I think Jesus actually showed up and scared that UFO into dropping Brent Spiner off in the Egyptian desert. And I led Brent to Jesus because I said, guess what? If you'll accept Jesus as your Savior, you'll never be abducted by a UFO ever again. And I was right. I said, because they were able to do it using switch-out technology. And anyway, so I led him to Jesus, and Brent started, he would read his Bible like mad. He was very excited about having Jesus in his life. And he just started reading the Bible and reading the Bible. And I was so proud of Brent. And then he said, we're going to start a church for you, Gail. He said, I've led all the other guys to Jesus, and we're all saved now, and we're going to start a church. And they called it Church of Gail. And I thought, I can't believe it, all these guys. But see, when I fell in love with Brent, he wasn't a Christian. But I loved him because he was just such a big person. He was an agnostic, but I led him to Jesus. And Vladimir Putin I led to Jesus around 2001. And I told him it's okay if he works with the Russian Orthodox Church and all that, because I knew that's, being a head of state, I thought that might work out good for his country. So I led him to Jesus. So I led Brent Spiner led all the other guys to Jesus. And if they were smoking, they quit smoking and all this stuff because they figured that wasn't good for their health and they want to take good care of the temples. So anyways, to make a long story short, February, because we started fighting the Jesuits. We banded together in Church of Gail. We had a space fleet with military capabilities, and our goal was to defeat the Jesuits so that we could be together without them blocking us and causing problems with all their clone wives and all the stuff they were doing to sabotage our love for each other. And Satan actually got so threatened by us, by our military and our attempts to bring down his Jesuit order, that he showed up in a church service and he resurrected Zach Knight from hell. He actually entered into Zach Knight's body and he took over the service, and he turned all the men gay. So we had to, and Satan he took over our church service. I said, Jesus, please help us. Satan's here. Jesus showed up, beat up Satan, kicked him in the balls, and he started talking to me. I thought, wow, Jesus is talking to me. And I thought that would be it. I thought he just did that. Right before that, he made some appearances. Anyways, he's been making appearances to us every now and then since 2012. He hasn't stopped. Finally, after we led Zach Knight to the Lord, I decided, hey, the Jesuits are coming to Jesus, and they need I need to make a new Bible for them, where I have all the transcripts of everything Jesus said to us, because there are a lot of misconceptions about what a Christian should be. And Jesus said he's not against gay, so what I did is I put all this into a book and I published it. Loree McBride's been opposing this, saying that this is a fake Jesus appearance, but anybody who knows their Bible, like I do, knows this is the real Jesus. So I wanted to get this in writing. And because it's so important what Jesus says, I'm making a free audiobook. I have a link underneath this video for that audiobook. I've even created a page. I'm making it free, and I'm going to trust Jesus to take care of my needs, and he will, because I want people to know what Jesus said. If you're a Christian, you need to know, because there are a lot of false ideas you have on what it's like to make Jesus happy as a Christian. And Jesus had to correct me in a lot of areas too. So listen to my free audiobook. It's going to take me a year or longer to make it.